entrance side.
Of your heart, she's a thing, something more. And the night, magic, just whisper her. I'm so different from moonlight. Just come on and dance.
Come on, Raoul, get close and get in here. I don't know. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you.
I met Raoul Middleman in Paris. I was living in the Stella Hotel. It was one of the beat hotels, and I'd been living there for 5 years. I was an expatriate. I never thought I would return to America. I loved it over there. I earned my living by wallpapering the rooms in the hotel and being a chambermaid, and I had just wallpapered Raoul Middleman's room. I didn't realize it was Raoul Middleman's room I was papering. There was a sale on psychedelic daisy wallpaper, and we took advantage of that at the Hotel Stella. And I covered his room. When we ran out of psychedelic pink daisy wallpaper, we switched to psychedelic orange. And so his walls were really interesting looking. And he immediately pinned up lots of oil paintings onto the walls, and then he would paint on the paintings and fix them so that there were little squares of oil paint all over the daisies, as if they weren't psychedelic enough. And while Raoul was living there, I got to know him, and when he came back to America, I came with him, and the rest is history.
Because then I might think it's the wrong. Underneath there's some. I guess that'll be all right. That gives you a full spectrum, you know. Do I need anything else here? I think I got enough that I can think of. Right now we're just doing that one painting. And then I'll get that painting set up. Already, I haven't even started anything, you know? So already, and I'm picking up other paint and all that stuff. See what that does. I get some over here and some over there. Yeah, it's starting to, you know, I'm destroying what I already had down. You know what I mean? Maybe something for a smaller thing and somewhere in between, you know, so what I went for in between, maybe that one. So I start off with this. I might want a flatter brush later. But, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do here. And then I'm ready to go, pretty much. I usually put music on.
Huh?
Oh, the thing incredible. See that movement there? And then I want to take some of the brown stuff and get it going in there, you see. Okay. And I got to bring that down. It comes down. And then there's some red over here where the cheek is, you see. And I put that in, but then I need some of this stuff to kill it a little bit, you know. And then I bring the black in there. That's good enough. Anyway. I like it for the time being. It's a little different than the others, right? It's a discovery of sorts. Let's see what it looks like. I usually take it and maybe change it a little bit. That holds up pretty good. Vulgarity is not just subject matter, but it's also an invasion of your private space and, you know, kind of a closeness. It doesn't have a discrete distance, you know. In a Courbet or Rembrandt, you can smell the body odors and the flab sweat, you know. And you don't in a Velázquez or Corot, and they're great painters. There's a different kind of thing. They are elegant and refined and classical, and Rembrandt and Courbet have a kind of earthy, at times vulgar sense. In this, and you know, the idea of beauty sometimes is thought to be a kind of a cleansing of physical attributes into a kind of universal. So the vulgarity is maybe a richer slice of life. I always like burlesque theater for that reason, you know. I mean, Stinky Fields would come out on the stage, and he'd be sitting on an orange crate or by an orange crate table, and he'd be warming a coffee pot over a candle flame, and his arm would be up, and the little tufts of underarm hair would be poking through a rented T-shirt. I mean, the T-shirt was rented because it wasn't his. One and two had a hole, and you know, and he would wait, you know, for the right moment. And of course, behind him was this curtain of big bejeweled ring hands, you know, and then there was just all this poverty around. And he would suddenly look at the audience and wait, and he'd say with a big smile, "Ain't it hell to be poor?" And at that moment, he would convert, you know, the poverty of the situation into extreme riches somehow. It was a transformation from, and I love that idea of just the, you know, the ordinary planks of the studio, splinters and all, bespattered with paint drops, and, you know, the kind of phlegm encrusted accoutramental attire for the artist suddenly becomes transformed from poverty to richness in some miraculous way. And to me, that transformation is, and it was always in burlesque theater, always in burlesque theater. You know, like if reality's anywhere, it's right here in the here and now. It's not, you go to some ideal place. I mean, and so maybe that could be because it's so ordinary and so, it smacks so much of the discarded tonics of life that is considered vulgar, but maybe that's maybe the closest we can come to an authentic paradise, you know. The idea of perfection, for example, it's not the way we live. Each moment has its, it's a moment that's, you know, somehow the moment in which we live is a moment in a general flux of things, and it's. I mean, if I make a painting and it's too complete, it's somehow a lie. It's got to be open and has a certain intrinsic problematic quality to it. That, you know, like it might have rough edges, or it might have, you know, a certain vulgarity in the sense that the dissonance hadn't been sanded out of it into a kind of smooth fluency of movement and harmony. And there is a kind of egregious confrontation of sensual and mental ambiguities that keep it alive. Maybe. I mean, it's like it's a form of romanticism in a way. You know, I mean, the idea of the cowboy or the idea of the West. You know, the frontier, which had no kind of confinement in a sense, the sublime. You know, like an expandable frontier. You know, that sort of thing. It was a thing that came from a kid when I read Will James III, stories of Smokey, Lone Cowboy, All in a Day's Riding. All the books I read as a kid about horses, about cowboys and Indians as a kid. I mean, it's still that kind of infantilistic kind of infatuation, as it were. I mean, it kind of formed in a way, kind of slid over into the idea of an artist in some way, and especially an American artist. I mean, Europe has much more severe borders, and this was like, I moved out of the kind of, the kind of suburban, kind of environment, kind of like I did when I was a kid, older. I mean, I loved burlesque theater. I would move into the block, into nightclubs, and, the showgirls and the strippers, and all that was a kind of and they're all in a way, a kind of shedding the kind of confines of a kind of a bourgeois upbringing, in a certain sense, a cleansing, as it were. Of self. A lot of times I'd be sleeping with other guys, like hobos, that they were kind of romantic heroes in a way, because they're constantly traveling. I mean, like the one guy I work with, he says, every time I hear a train whistle, I get a hankering to go. And it's like, and he just picked up, he didn't even ask for money, he just picked up, he heard a train and left the next day. I mean, there was a certain kind of quality to that, between the hobo who would work and travel the rails, and that was kind of a thing that was happening then. And these guys, I could tell you so many stories. Solar paintings are here in these racks. Over there I got glass and drawings. And I'll show you the different areas if you want to walk around. Now back here, all that's like paper stuff and all kind. You see back in there, we can go there later. Then over here, I haven't set this up. I did one big painting here. This is my big painting area. I'm going to shoot some of this. These are things I had rolled up and I hadn't rolled up properly, and letting them flatten out. And I had tons of these things I didn't know about. Some of them up, and it's a mess. I need help here, but. Has to do everything with the models. I mean, they're very important to have a good model. And it's not just taking off your clothes and standing there. It's like an imagination with the body. There's a real professionalism, the good models. And like a girl like Carol, we were looking at, she had a certain language that she could do in her poses that was Carol. I got back from France and we went I lived down on the block in Baltimore, burlesque area, but it was an Israeli pizza parlor. And we were trying out the pizza. And there was a guy in the back, I didn't pay any attention, a guy in the back, and the other end of the counter, in a dark corner of the counter. And he walked past me, and it's like he had like a board shoved in his back. He walked in a funny way with his legs kind of splayed out, kind of splayed out in like a duck fashion or something. And I said to myself, Howard Needle, I hadn't seen him since a kid. And, like he was bald. Now, Howard Needle, when he was little, he wasn't bald, but it was like he faded to be bald. I mean, he had a perfectly oval face, you know, clean, and like it was encumbered by, you know, kind of a soft, fuzzy hair of youth. But I mean, now it was shed, and like he came into his own, you know. And then I went to the Israeli pizza place, the guy, and I said, "Is his name Howard?" And he said, "Yes, that's Howard Needle, our state's representative." So that took some time, and I explained to my wife and everything. So I ran out. I had a huge beard, you know, large beard, and I didn't want to run down the street. "Hey, Howie, it's your old pal from old 64 days, my old school." So he went into a couple blocks down. I was running after him, and he went into a building, and it locked. It was on the weekend, and I saw him get in an elevator. That's the last I saw Howard Needle. But it's the same thing. I mean, I recognized him by his walk, and by, you know, just in a moment I could tell. You know, so how do you have a model, and if you want to get to there's the body language that's very important. But the models can be terribly inspirational, you know, for me. But it's very exciting to have a good model, somebody that, I mean, you can do painting after painting with somebody that's very inspirational, that keeps a look in their face, you know what I mean? Keeps a kind of tautness in the body. It keeps a, you know, that like that one over the black lady over there. I mean, she's in her 60s, and she can really model. I mean, she can really get an energy in a pose that you want to paint. And after he died, he lost a leg, and I put a flower pot over it from diabetes. And he was a Greek artist, very eccentric and bohemian. He loved girls, so I have Carol. You know, Carol, she posed for that many years ago. And that might be Ray for one of the kids, you know, holding a mirror. And I'll say, there's Carol there, and there, you know. And then one of the kids drawing, he liked kids and women. And I made this tribute to Aristodemus Galdus, that was his name. Friend of de Kooning and all those people, and a good painter. And a critic, and bohemian, the most bohemian guy I ever met. Kind of neat guy. One of these things, Utah watercolors. These are my burlesque drawings. You saw some of those, right? Cartooning and doing that. Old man, young girl, I do a lot of that. They go pretty wild. There's a good one, huh? With ink, I make my own ink, you know. It's a walnut ink from my trees out in the country. There's something. I mean, that's the kind of interesting of a tree somewhere, you know. You go in, you know, you don't know what you're going to find. You know, you come here, what's this? I don't know. Yeah, they're all numbered in place. So you could, putting this together was a big job, you know, really big job. Now we can go see this girl behind here is like, these are friends of mine. And that one's the same girl, Heather. She's a very good model. That's a nice portrait of her. You know, there's a picture of my friend Eric, and this is the radio announcer. I got In the Woods here, people like, you know, people like things out in the fields. So I like these in ravine things that I do. You know what I mean? They're more abstract. I do a whole series of interviews. You know, it gets real hot in the country. I go inside the woods and look